Woke video games. I literally rewrote this script 3 times. Either way, woke video games. Basically, the word woke was used to represent being aware of the systematic racism, and then a few people used it to represent social justice, and then right-wing people used it as an insult, which it became, lol. So that sucks. Mostly because it's a replacement of politically correct or even progressive, etc. And the old trans agenda is just the 2000s gay agenda, repackaged for a new audience. So what do I think about the old thing? I have problems with corporations, but it's very, very, very complex. It also involves capitalism, which we won't really talk about in this video. However, I will be talking about Sweet Baby Inc. a little bit, so bear with me. This company is basically a bunch of sensitivity readers and writers, which is fine. If you're going to tackle some sensitive subjects, talking with sensitivity readers who are familiar with it will help you see their perspectives as well as write a better story. A story with a lot of nuance at least. I kinda consulted a sensitivity reader while making my story, and it pretty much helped a lot. So it is fine. Too bad they threatened to dox their haters, who are full of garbage by the way, but whatever. And one of their employees talked smack about Akira Toriyama less than 24 hours after his demise. There's also an endless rabbit hole about this, but I don't care. I don't even play most of these games. I only play Katamari Damacy. And let's just say that that is not Goodbye Volcano High. Although that looks mildly decent. On a sale at least. You know what? This is exhausting. I do not appreciate Sweet Baby Inc., nor the annoying gamers who are somehow more annoying. Sensitivity readers are still necessary in my opinion, just not these ones. So I'll just talk about woke games I enjoy. I'll just replace woke with progressive, because that's what that is actually. None of that Spider-Man, none of that God of War, not even Alan Wake. Progressive games have always existed, and they always will. So you know what? It's showtime. Video games have always tackled a bunch of different subjects. The horror of Berserk's face, the fear of being controlled of Robotron, the goofiness of Donkey Kong. It was only a matter of time before it would tackle some more contemporary subjects, and the Atari Prawn games are proof of that. There were also some text adventure games which started forming the artsy game trend, as well as Dragon's Lair, which showed that most video games could be more than just generic pixels. The closest thing to a gay character that we would get is Birdo. A queer villain, perhaps, but she became so iconic, she became Yoshi's partner. Then Nintendo was like, no, she's not trans, in order to avoid controversy. So her pronouns are officially she, her, so that's what matters, I guess. Although, in a twist of fate, it was revealed that toads have no gender. It's just that Toadette presents herself in a feminine way, lol. If Toadette can have her gender ambiguity... Toadette can have her gender ambiguity... Toadette can have her gender ambiguity... If Toadette can have her gender ambiguity, so can Birdo. Same thing happened to Poison, who became trans to avoid controversy, but accidentally created more. Either way, those are queer villains who got redeemed as icons. Yay! Still not as weird as Sonic's politics. Similarly to Donkey Kong Jr.'s adventure where he rescues DK from Jumpman, which kinda questions the ethics of capturing animals and bringing them to the zoo. Sonic 1 portrays a scientist as an all-polluting evil mastermind who should let animals live in peace. The fact that this is the only human in the game furthers the message about the dangers of human pollution. I mean, there was supposed to be Madonna who was in love with Sonic, but apparently she was cut out. Woke censorship! Ooh! It's even wilder that Sonic CD introduces Little Planet, which looks like Earth but only appears once every 100 years. Sonic must prevent the apparition of these machines by going back in time. The game really makes its message clear. You, the player, experiences the point of view of a hero who fights for nature. It's not subtle. Fight for your environment, kids. Unlike SEGA and their plastic cartridges. It feels like Sonic Team USA saw Captain Planet and were like, oh yeah, Captain Planet is a thing, so might as well throw some eco-friendly stuff in there. And boom, profit! Either way, Sonic Sat AM also has that kind of message, but they made Sonic straight, so it's not exactly based. Sonic Adventure also has that kind of message with the animal experimentation with E102 Gamma, but it's toned down a bit because of the apparition of NPCs. Realistic human NPCs who have all their problems and stuff. But yeah, that's why OG Sonic was progressive for some reason. The fastest thing alive! Among platforming mascots, there was Kirby. He is cute. That's right, despite using male pronouns, Kirby is pink. Pink apparently used to be a very masculine color, but then society said no. And then it became blue for boys and pink for girls. Although apparently Kirby's gender is ambiguous, just like me, yeah. It's just apparently more apparent in the Japanese version, where he has genderless pronouns. But apparently the Japanese language doesn't use that many pronouns, so I don't know. Either way, Knights is here and they're the worst. I love them. They're basically a dummy who's like, psst, come here little children. I will help you with your anxieties and not screw up your life, I swear. Either way, basically Knights is based on the Jester archetype, since he fuses with both a boy and a girl, and also the game is about the philosophy of dreams, so blah blah blah. Google that if you want, it's not really that important. Well, he still uses male pronouns according to the game's director. You know what? Just screw it. Have fun with Knights. Also, canonically, you can meet them in your dreams, since Knights takes place in Nightopia, a universe made of dreams. There's even some water in there, so I guess you could call that a wet dream? The heck, wow, there was this small game on 3DO called D? A very suspenseful and horrifying horror game, ooh. But then there was a semi-sequel alternative universe fanfiction on the Sega Saturn called Enemy Zero. The digital actress Laura gets to fight some invisible aliens that you can only hear. There even is a diverse cast of characters, which all reappear in D2. Actual people of color, not based on archetypes. And Laura being surprisingly the most important character, and being even capable of hunting. You know, the manliest thing of the universe. Either way, I talk about D2 in extent in one of my videos about horror games, so watch that if you want to. But the thing is that Laura wasn't the only empowered woman on the Sega Dreamcast, as Sega decided to hire an all-female team to work on a little game called Napple Tale. Hey, at least it's not Nipple Tale. Napple Tale is basically a big wig platformer with a lot of cutscenes. Either way, Napple Tale is basically Mario 3D World but with more complex mechanics and a nice little story about dyeing your hair in another world that's a purgatory lol. Either way, the graphics and the music are fire! It's probably as good as Nobuo Uematsu or even Jun Chikuma. Just kidding, Jun Chikuma is the GOAT. She deserves a lot more credit. Tele. Tele tele te tele. Tele tele te te. Te te te. Te te te. Te te te. Te. But whatever, Napple Tale is really outstanding. Too bad I can't play it because pirating. Also, I just realized that this is the iGuardian spy situation, but 20 years earlier somehow. Just saying. And it's also done right, I think. Another cool game with a female protagonist is Shantae, a Game Boy game from 2002 that got overshadowed. Because of that, it took 7 years for Shantae fans to get an actual sequel. Why? Because apparently publishers kept rejecting Shantae, or even wanted her to be a side character for some reason. And why does Lara Croft get a pass while Shantae doesn't? Because there weren't really that many women in color in gaming, aside from maybe Fear Effect. Fear Effect is a cool gay games with gals, guns, and an immersive story, and some legit outstanding cel shading that pushes the 32-bit console to its limits. But the marketing in America was more like, look at these two sexy girls together, and the official PlayStation magazine made jokes about their genitals because, of course, gaming journalism at its finest. And that's literally it. There was no real backlash, but I would not be surprised if it was because the girls had the sexy body type and the marketing. And the fact that there were 2 playable characters and only one of them was a woman of color kind of helped a bit. Alright, Shantae. Shantae is this very fun Metroidvania with the protagonist being a ballady dancer, thus being able to dance and transform into multiple animals, most of them not being sexualized or feminine looking at all. But then again, Shantae is 16, so I pretty much think that was for the best. There's also in the third game a very fruity He-Man parody, who somehow is fruitier than I am. Either way, we should move on to the Game Boy Advance. Wario Land 4 is pretty cool, but it feels like the developers wanted to do more than a platformer. And the ending, where the more percent you complete, the more the girl you kiss looks attractive, is a product of its time. A time where video games were more marketed towards boys in America. But then again, this is the Game Boy Advance. Meanwhile, with Warioware, we get to play as girls. Mona Pizza might have her friends to rely on, although she is portrayed as very busy and somewhat independent. Like, yes, she kinda had a crush on Wario, but that wasn't the front and center of her personality. However, nowadays, she less has a crush on Wario and sort of prefers his fashion sense. Which, I mean, as a non-binary person, I think it's fine. Just take my word with a grain of salt. Meanwhile, Kat and Anna are 2 kindergartners that are actually ninjas. In the first WarioWare they appear in, they throw away their geisha outfits in order to become ninjas and save the prince in distress. Yep, a prince in distress. And barely anyone batted an eye at this. Later down the line, Nintendo would introduce a bunch of other cool girls, like Ashley, the goth witch who lays cute stuff and also is really iconic in the fandom for some reason. Or Penny, that one girl who does science way better than her father does. But she still is a bit clumsy on the side. And she also has her own theme song for some reason. Either way, WarioWare is just a bit progressive. As Nintendo finally realized that girls like to play video games too. And while the Nintendo DS was supposed to be right next to the GameCube and the Game Boy Advance as a sort of third pillar, it quickly became more important than the Game Boy itself. So due to that, Nintendo collaborated with Sing in order to create another code, a point-and-click adventure for the DS. I sort of forgot to talk about the best lady of gaming, Samus Aran. But the thing is that her first appearance was more of a punchline rather than any progressive statement. Either way, Samus is a tall, bulky girl, while Ashley, our protagonist, straight up looks like this. Short hair, jeans, shirt, Ashley feels straight out of the 2000s. And while I've seen people complain about MJ or Aloy being unattractive, I've seen people complain that Shira, a teenager, was unattractive. So it's interesting to see Sing create a really unconventional protagonist. Either way, the whole game is about Ashley getting a letter from her dad to go to Blood Edward Island, and then she has to explore it because her aunt is gone and her father isn't here. But suddenly, Ghost! But Amnesiac Ghost, who Ashley has to help find his memories. The game itself tackles some very interesting subjects, such as PTSD and committing unalive, which, let's just say, that's very interesting, especially for a Nintendo game. Either way, the DS version is one of my favorite games of all time, while the Switch version just completes it well. I recommend people to play both versions as they both tackle the same themes differently. Yay! Either way, meanwhile in Europe and Japan, there were those people, Arch-Rich or Tracy, who decided, you know what would be fun? A fighting game with construction vehicles, and a story mode, and a gay couple story arc. That's right, on our way to defend our father's honor, we get this one character, who has an ex who is actually important. So then they fight each other and fall in love again for some reason. It's so dumb and I love every second of it, especially when the gameplay does not care. All that matters is seeing people shout at each other and how wild these anime cutscenes can be. Too bad I can't play it because pirating. But new year means new console, which means new JRPG. You see, the thing about From Software is that during every era of every new console, FromSoft is the one who tests the limits. On the original PlayStation, King's Field. On the PlayStation 2, Evergrace as well as Eternal Ring. Xbox 360, Enchanted Arms, which also came out on PS3. Enchanted Arms has the trio Atsuma, Toya, and Makoto, who go to school, but suddenly, war! The game starts out super slow, but you get to see the character dynamics anyways. Atsuma is the moron, Toya is the smart one that kinda gets influenced by the moron, and Makoto is the gay straight man voice of reason who actually has a crush on Toya. The trio works super well together, and Makoto, despite his very sassy voice, is a great character on his own. And honestly, it's great to see a gay character done right in a 2006 game. Title itself is a fun JRPG that I would easily recommend to anyone, even to newcomers. It has auto battle, fast forward, as well as many other options to accommodate the player. The prologue is a bit long, but not Persona 4 long, where it takes you 4 hours before you can move freely. So yeah, I'd recommend Enchanted Arms, especially since it's dirt cheap right now. Another JRPG that I really like from that gen is Opuna. Opuna is this little JRPG about a family of Tizians going on vacation, but oops, their ship is attacked by other aliens. So the kids use their escape pod to land on Tolkone, or Tolkione, whatever. And now they need to integrate society. Yay! The title has a lot of world building, but it is very slow paced. But actually I like that, because it makes it feel more unique than other JRPGs. Granted, the game has a lot of problems involving budget. Because of that, a lot of corners had to be cut. But you know what? I do not mind at all. The story is great and the battle system is really fun. There are even about 300 something art pieces, as well as some TV programs to watch. And even some very limited minigames. However, integrating society is no joke. Opuna tackles some systematic issues and even xenophobia, as Opuna and his siblings often are infantilized by humans, no matter what they do. Why? Because they are Tizians, not humans, unfortunately. So they sort of have to go an extra mile in order to live in this society that does not exactly care about them. However, despite that, you'll get to have some social links from time to time, showing that there are still people who care about you. But yeah, that it's even harder considering how Japan is one of the most homogenized countries in the world. So somehow this cutesy casual RPG is about racism. Yay. So much for a vacation. Look, I could talk about queer romances in older games including Bully, but I think I'll talk about one more game just for the heck of it. The thing about the 2010s is that it sort of democratized, all of the indie game development. So it became easier than ever to make your own game. Due to that, most woke games have been talked about enough. Although there is that one cool game about transition that people barely talked about. Especially since it's made by VG Person, who has translated a lot of RPG Maker horror games. But I wanted to end off with one of my favorite JRPGs of all time. A JRPG that somehow, for some reason, has avoided the Culture War phenomenon. So that's pretty much what I will be talking about. Blue Reflection 1 is what I wanted from Persona 5. A simple adventure that tackles complex human issues with a lot of lore. There's even a lot of plot twists at the end. I would have also loved if the game didn't crash like 5 times. The amount of crashes shows that the game had a limited budget, and so I would not call this a perfect game. I still love it though. Unfortunately, the title flopped, so we will not see what a higher budget. Wait, the Atelier Riza games as well as Fairy Tail have sold well? So because of that, the Atelier games are more known than ever. So that means that there's a sequel as well as an anime? Okay, calm down. This is happening. It probably won't be as good as the first one though. Am I right? Boom, it's one of my favorite JRPGs of all time. What? Blue Reflection Second Light is a game that stands on its own. You do not need to play the first game, nor watch the show to play it. It's just that it gives a lot of context. So this is the story of Ao, a 16-year-old who drops her phone, then she gets an ominous message. Too bad she doesn't care and goes to school. Unfortunately, she is now in another world with girls. It's mostly a magical girl story about girls learning to deal with their issues by going in artscapes, which are sort of like the palaces in Persona. The world is developed so well and the writing impressed me a lot more than the first game. Although the thing is that Ao has a lot of very romantic scenes with a lot of the girls. Just gals being gals. But while this was expected, I did not expect an actual lesbian couple to be in this game. Like, without any kind of tension, and mostly with just love and sincerity. There is also this one character who is actually a romantic, and the way it is tackled is surprisingly mature enough. So I think this game did a very good job at portraying romance. I could also talk about how this game is focused on surviving. So aside from vending machines which you create yourself, there's pretty much no monetary system in this game. Is this what we call communism? I don't know. All I know is that this game is absolutely gorgeous to look at. Like, the floating text stuff really feels next gen, even though this came out on PS4. So that's pretty much it for Blue Reflection. And that's also it for, this video. Moral of the story, I said it at the beginning, but there always have been some progressive games, and there always will be, as I enjoy seeing multiple subjects that are tackled in video games. Either way, thank you for watching till the end. Please like and subscribe, and maybe comment if you want to, but you know what? Have a nice day!